But it's this ability to like, okay, I have an idea about something, particularly about psychedelics,
Mhm.
and it's kind of a radical idea. It's a conjecture-based idea, and I believe it's 100% true. And then from there, there's this reducing down of complexity into this like into this type of thinking that can be characterized as psychedelics are the answer,
Yeah.
regardless of what the question is. And so, in one of the things I said earlier about some criticisms I have about the unintended consequences of your paper or papers like yours, which
Mhm.
isn't to your paper or to you or your thinking or to your results, but how people end up engaging these types of things. People who haven't immersed themselves into thinking about this or have a sense making about this type of information in a way that can lead to a complex, nuance, ambivalent, like, yeah, but also maybe no, that becomes okay. So your your paper says psychedelics increase nature relatedness in a state mediated and context dependent manner. Nature relatedness is connected with positive well-being. We also there's the lack of nature relatedness is likely connected with ecological destruction, and so an increased nature relatedness might infer that we might end up behaving in ways that produce less ecological destruction. And then that's red, and then the answer is psychedelics will save us from the environmental crisis. And then
Yeah.
these are the titles on Medium and whatever else. And
Yeah.
so what are your, can you go into this a little bit? I mean, like,
Yeah.
just around this question and the failures of this type of sensationalized reporting on the efficacy of psychedelics.
I so there's a few things here. Like just to say, it's been interesting to look at news articles on the study kind of spread through the online networks, and like the general reception by the psychedelic community and people is like really positive. Like
Mhm.
people are like really interested in it. There's a lot of comments of like, well, duh.
Right. Yeah.
Science proves water is wet. It's like it's very obvious to psychedelic users that psychedelics increase one's connection to nature. It seems like why even look at that? It's so obvious.
That happened to
But
me while I was reading. I knew why, but I was like, well, duh, congratulations, science.
yeah, but like, I met my collaborator Hannes Kettner, who's the other lead author on the paper a few nights ago, and because I was saying like I was kind of thinking. Well, I don't know. He made the point that it's a good thing. It's people are kind of like validating and sort of like validating what we're showing, and it's like I think not everyone is a psychedelic user, and I think we to engage with a wider audience and like expand that sort of sphere of conversation, we do need to do the research and present the scientific evidence.
Hmm.
Just sort of I'm all for like the power of personal experience and testimony, but there's a space for kind of the more objective.
I
Um,
completely agree.
so, regarding the study, so a few I mean, we definitely had a few sort of critics, and I think we need to be mindful that the overall like changes in nature connectedness are pretty small, but it's like not that's not to sort of say anything against psychedelics because it's hard to shift people's nature connectedness values. I just read this PhD thesis, or big paper by one of the researchers in this field. She was trying to use journaling about nature as an intervention for increasing it, and it didn't really have any effect.
Mm.
It's I know there's one researcher who I mentioned who's the head of the Nature Connected Research Group at Derby, and he says one good way of increasing your nature connectedness is to, for a week, every day, write down something that you love about nature, that brings you joy about nature. And just doing that apparently will shift your mate will increase your nature connectedness values. Like I did kind of ask him like, but how enduring is this?
Mm.
How long term? We know from the research that the psychedelic shift seems to be quite enduring. It doesn't seem to diminish. And I would wonder like for how long would doing something like that kind of stay with you? But the actual changes are quite small. So we need to like the actual increases in nature relatedness, although the change from before and after psychedelic, or sort of when looking at lifetime usage of psychedelics, like there's a highly significant effect there. Like it's inarguable that psychedelics are having a powerful effect, but the actual total change in nature relatedness is maybe not so large. But again, I have to bring up, like, we've used this NR6, this 6-item measure, and that's what's been used in the studies previous in our study. And because it's a small measure, it's got this kind of ceiling effect. And you know what I mean? So for a future study, I'm be very intent on using a few different measures. So we're not putting all our nature connection eggs in one basket. You know, I think let's look at different measures, and let's look also at pro environmental behavioural changes as well. So having a wider suite of measures that we can deploy. But yes, I think we need to, like, maintain our feet on the ground. Like, I think it would be naive to say, like, yeah, psychedelics are just going to, like, save us, save the world. I see them, and again, I'm going to use the term tool now again. They are a tool. They are not a panacea. They are not a magic bullet. They are a tool in the box, and potentially a powerful tool in the box. Like, looking ahead, I'm kind of interested in exploring more the various interventions that have been found to increase nature connection, because, as mentioned, like themes like meaning and compassion and finding beauty in nature, like a lot of the key themes that come up are very much things that psychedelics will potentially enhance.
Especially psilocybin, yeah.
Yeah, especially psilocybin. You know, they're non-specific psychic amplifiers, so they will amplify these things, but particularly psilocybin seems well suited to these. So that's kind of what I would like to see moving forward, is, as you say, kind of like, yeah, fusing existing practices and kind of supercharging them with the psychedelics in the same way that with the clinical approach now, it's the combination of therapy and the psychedelic experience. And it's very hard to disentangle the two things. They work very well together. Like, therapy on its own can be helpful, but perhaps a bit hit and miss. Psychedelics on their own can definitely be helpful, can also be a bit hit and miss. If you combine that therapeutic preparation and the support, and then the follow-up integration work with the psychedelic, it really vamps it up. It supercharges the potential there. And I see it. I think there will be a similar potential combining psychedelic usage with pre-existing nature connectedness interventions. I think there could be a good potential amplifying effect there.